According to the American Study of Addiction Medicine, or ASAM, addiction has been newly defined as a chronic disease of the brain. This means that those obsessive and obstructive behaviors seen in those around us with addiction problems are manifestation of a neurological disease and not just outward expressions. From EuricAlert.org, Dr. Hajila, past president of the Canadian Society of Addiction Medicine, is quoted saying, "Choice still plays an important role in getting help. While the neurobiology of choice may not be fully understood, a person with addiction must make choices for a healthier life in order to enter treatment and recovery. Because there is no pill which alone can cure addiction, choosing recovery over unhealthy behavior is necessary." This quote by Dr. Hajila can be traced to other human diseases that require behavioral choices, such as people with diabetes or heart disease. Decisions are made daily that could affect these diseases overall by choosing to exercise or to eat healthy or to choose neither. The consequences are left in the hands of the person with the disease. In the following presentation, I'll be giving you some background information as to why sugar addiction is a growing issue in America. Next, I will tell you some of the causes of sugar addiction, and to conclude, I will persuade you to accept a solution to treat this national addiction to sugar. I'll begin by telling you why sugar addiction is a problem in America. In the article, "Are You a Secret Sugar Addict?", Caroline Jones states that our nation has become reliant on sugar and that 70 pounds of sugar is consumed per person annually, and that this amount has tripled over the last 50 years. That being said, our bodies do need certain amounts of sugar in order to be in balance, but the large amounts, according to Jones, have been associated with raised insulin levels. An excessive amount of sugar within the body gets turned into fat and is stored around vital organs, which increases a person's risk of heart disease and liver disease. A rather shocking point brought up in Jones' article is that high sugar diets spike insulin levels, may fuel the growth of cancerous tumors. Scientists at Princeton University discovered that the chemicals released when sugar is consumed travel along the same brain paths as heroin. This feeling of a high when consuming sugar is what forms the craving in addiction. The scientists at Princeton also found that when they removed sugar from the diets of rats, the rats became anxious and resembled having symptoms similar to nicotine withdrawal and morphine withdrawal. According to the article Sugar and Vice by Danny Buckland, the point is made that the UK has created a research project that examines the ways that sugar influences the complex reward mechanisms in the brain. Buckland emphasizes Dr. David Kessler, who is a former U.S. Food and Drug Administration commissioner, who believes that today's foods are designed for the consumers to experience momentary bliss through the addition of additives that include sugar. Buckland quotes Kessler saying, "For some people who struggle to control their weight, their brains are being hijacked by these highly palatable foods." Dr. Kessler goes on to explain that once these flavorsome, overstimulating foods touch our mouths, there are sensory receptors that react with our emotions, and that the neurocircuits that are activated are the same circuits involved with addiction. Of course, the food industry attempts to deny that sugar is leading to addiction, and according to Buckland's article, the food industry prefers the idea that it is the excessive consumption of sugar rather than the sugar itself. Caroline Jones sums up the gist of this information when she says, "Sugar makes us fat, rots our teeth, and has been linked to heart disease and cancer. Yet sugar is found in just about everything we eat and in rapidly rising amounts." Now that I've explained to you why sugar addiction is a problem, I will explain some of the causes behind this epidemic. On the origins of sugar in the human diet, other than food that naturally contains sugar, we must look back to cornfields. According to Buckland, modern obesity can be tracked back to when President Richard Nixon agreed to huge farming subsidies that caused a drastic increase in production. Buckland claims that in the race to produce cheap food to win votes, President Nixon's Agriculture Secretary Earl Butz had entreated farmers, "Get big or get out." Due to the excessive corn production, food availability and variety increased, and scientists discovered that the food surplus could be transformed into a sweetener that became titled high fructose corn syrup, or HFCS for short. HFCS was a third cheaper than sugar and gave products a longer shelf life, was vital to keeping frozen foods alive, and permeates most processed foods. According to Jones, the 70s was when medical establishments first realized the connection of dietary fat and heart attacks. This realization resulted with fat to be removed from most store-purchased foods. In order to maintain the pleasing flavor of the food that the fat had been removed from, manufacturers began adding sugar in. Jones uses the example of cereal. In 1978, Kellogg's Special K contained 9.6 grams of sugar per 100 grams, but it now contains double that at 17 grams per 100 grams. This is not only seen in processed food, but even fruits and vegetables are being bred to taste sweeter than the varieties we were used to in the past. Experts now fear that our past fascination with removing fat is now leading people to become addicted to sugar. I've told you the problem and causes of sugar addiction in America, and lastly, I will persuade you to accept a solution to this growing issue. The act of refusing any kind of societal norm is difficult. From speaking out against something or wearing clothes that are seen as uncool by your peers is not at all easy. When it comes to changing one's diet to limit the amount of sugar intake, the difficulty level increases and suddenly the whole nation is against you. In the situation one wishes to increase the consumption of sugar, there will be holiday treats throughout the year, there will be advertisements on television with happy music and smiling faces portraying a false look at how your life would be if you were eating that same cupcake. And to top it all off, the addictive capabilities of sugar that require you to work around your symptoms of withdrawal are no piece of cake. In order to wean yourself off of sugar, just like any other addiction, it must be done gradually by setting reasonable weekly goals, keeping a food diary, and being sure to get enough sleep and daily exercise. Finding support through family members is a great tool to not only make quitting the addiction easier, but it could also inspire the family member to decrease their intake of sugar as well. It is easy to get all caught up in the symptoms of withdrawal and society's advertisements, but recalling the reasons behind sugar being pumped into almost every food that can be bought at the grocery store, and recalling the terrible health epidemic that sugar has created, will make the process of cutting the sugar addiction well worth the decision. In this presentation, I've told you why sugar addiction is a growing epidemic in America. I've explained the causes behind the increased use of sugar, and to conclude, I've expressed a solution to solve the problem. To end the rise of obesity and disease-stricken Americans, we must take it upon ourselves to bring an end to this national addiction to sugar.